What's up, YouTube land? Xeno Gaming here, back for the second episode of my 2018 career mode. 2019, sorry, gotta get that right now. Driving in the Toro Rosso car here today at the Australian Grand Prix, my home race. Really important one, first race of our career. And here we're just looking at what the Toro Rosso car, where it is in the pecking order. Right now we are the third worst car. The engine department, we are the worst car on the grid for engine. So that's going to be a major development area for us. We are fourth worst in the aerodynamics department, which is not bad, it's reasonable. We're right there with Rich Energy kind of and Racing Point. And then the chassis department, we are also fourth worst, close to Racing Point and McLaren. So not too bad on the aero and chassis department. Obviously not ideal. It's really the engine department where this car lacks with the Honda power. So that's where we're going to be focusing on. We'll throw it to David Croft now for the weekend introduction to Melbourne.
Welcome to Melbourne and the inaugural event of the F1 2019 Championship season. The session is starting shortly and there's a real sense of anticipation in the air. A feeling that anything can happen this year, and if it does, well, this weekend could be the opening chapter to one of the most exciting F1 seasons ever. Joining me in the commentary box is, of course, Anthony Davidson, and it's great to have you back again. What can you tell us about this year's roster? There are some new faces this year, aren't there?
Absolutely, Crofty. There's been a number of interesting signings over the last few months. Where would you like to start?
Let's talk about the captain.
Right, well, this is definitely someone to keep an eye on. They'll be familiar to anyone who follows the Formula 2 Championship, where they performed extremely well last year. It's worth noting that their teammate in F2, Lucas Weber, is also making his debut in Formula 1 this weekend. Now, there was an incident where they went against their own team's instructions to let Lucas past. They apologised for it at the time, and it seemed as though there were no hard feelings. But it will be interesting to see what kind of rivalry might develop now they're no longer constrained by driving for the same team.
Those two aren't the only new faces from Formula 2 this season, are they?
No, this season will introduce fans to George Russell and Lando Norris, two very promising young British drivers. Plus, we'll meet Alexander Albon from Thailand, and finally, Devon Butler. Now, Devon was a bit of a controversial figure in Formula 2 last year. He racked up a lot of penalties over the course of the season, including one where he collided with his closest rival. It was a nasty clip. Now, certainly after the event, they were nothing but professional in terms of how they spoke about the incident with Devon, but it's hard to imagine them being as polite about it behind closed doors. I think this rival will be one to keep an eye on over the next few races, as both drivers take their first steps into the world of Formula 1.
This first race of the season is always quite difficult for us trackside, and for those back at the factory as well, as it's the first time the car has run since winter testing. The more consistent mileage you can get in these sessions, the happier we'll be.
So here we are at the opening practice session of the year in Melbourne, Australia. First thing I had to check was in the timings was where Devon Butler was racing, and same as Lucas Weber. Weber will be driving for the Alfa Romeo racing team, and Devon Butler is at McLaren. So those are the two teams we will be aiming to beat this year, especially because they is where our two main rivals are. Practice programs this year are the same as last year, so we aced them all, as you can see. For practice I was on 100 difficulty. I moved it up for 105 for qualifying and the race, so to make it a little bit more challenging, I was done the practice programs quite easily. But before the after practice, we decided to do the general wear for durability and get our first engine upgrade on the ignition system, and they are both going to be on the car for Bahrain, which is good news for us, hopefully, if they don't fail quality control. So that will be hopefully a nice stepping point for the next race in Bahrain. But now here's Crofty for qualifying.
We're just about ready to kick off today's qualifying here in Melbourne. It's the Australian Grand Prix. Many of the drivers have commented on the challenge posed by the high-speed direction changes around this circuit, but you still need to be quick in a straight line. Is that a fair layman's appraisal?
Drivers are going to need a nicely balanced car to be fast here. They'll need to get the most out of the medium and high-speed corners, which will push them to run more downforce. But in turn, this slows the car down on the straights. It's a tricky balancing act.
So, welcome to qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix, first qualifying of the career mode. I thought Jeff was going to say something. Obviously hasn't got nothing to say at this moment in time. First run, we'll be going out in the medium tyre to see how that goes for us. Do 2 laps on the medium to see what we can do on the medium tyre, if it's worth it. So here we go, first qualifying lap of our career, coming into turn 1. In qualifying, 5th gear is the ideal choice. Back to 4th here on this lap. Stroll goes across along with the 24-1, and now going all the way to the left there, back down to 3rd gear, slight lock up on the front right tyre. Now bit of a moment there into turn 4, not ideal. And here we go now into turn 9 later in the lap. Another bit deep into the corner, and that doesn't bode well for the exit, as we have a big slide on the exit. Now on the run to the fast left-right chicane, turn 11 and 12 are the best 2 corners on this racetrack. Got to flick it down to 6th gear here, try and keep it as tight and flowing and a bit wide onto the grass, and we've had a spin. So our first lap of our career has not gone so well in qualifying. A spin here for Zeno. We're going to have to get back on track now. And next lap, we do the same thing. Unfortunately, we go deep into turn 9, lose the rear end, and 2 laps we had a chance to set a nice banker lap, and we haven't been able to do so, unfortunately. Gonna have to continue on with the lap here through turn 11, 12, get through it okay this time. And now we're coming across the line for 1 minute 28.3, which was good enough for last place at this stage, or 19th, which will turn into last place. So now our second run, 1 minute left in the session, soft tyre this time, and here we go. Turn 1 and 2, 5th gear, as I said, nice and tidy that time around. Now into turn 3, looking for the camera for your braking point. Back to 3rd gear, hit the apex nicely. Move into 4th, short shifting, just got to be careful on the throttle, it's so easy to lose the rear end. Slight moment through turn 5, now into turn 6, really nice, hit that inside curb, really like that, hooked it up nicely through there. Now into turn 9, I've made 2 mistakes on my first 2 laps, what about this time around? Hit the curb nicely there, much better, much more neater, cleaner, and we're now onto the fast left-right chicane. Always a tricky corner, just to judge where to turn in, where to get the braking point. That time hit the inside curb very nicely, that was much better. Open the DRS now on the run to turn 13. Just after the 100 metre board, hit your braking point, 4th gear, hit the curb. Nicely done, don't run out too wide. Now turn 14, inside curb, outside curb, 6th gear, back down the second hardest braking point on the track. Turn 15, the slowest corner on the track, I should say, not hardest braking point. Around the final corner, flat out, pretty much, and across the line for a 1 minute 24.5, which would get us P15 for now. But unfortunately, as we go to the end of the session, we are out in Q1, and it's a horrendous and a disaster for Toro Rosso, as Kubica is last, we are 19th, and Albon is 18th. It's a stunning lap by George Russell to put himself 17th on the grid. Kimi Räikkönen will be really disappointed to be out qualified by rookie Lucas Weber, but he's also eliminated in Q1, so that's unfortunate. And now we'll be going to the race 19th. It's not going to be easy, so we've put ourselves in that situation. We'll give it to David Croft for the race introduction.
They say that even a second is an eternity in Formula One, so going 4 winter months with no racing at all has seemed a very long time indeed. We're back though in Melbourne, home of the Australian Grand Prix since 1996. We go racing today then in the state of Victoria, where the drivers have 16 corners and 3.3 miles to navigate at an average lap speed of around 120 miles an hour. The close proximity of the barriers makes accidents inevitable, and recent history shows us that a safety car is not at all out of the question. We have plenty of changes to the sport this year, with tweaks to the regulations, a fresh-looking spread of tyre compounds, and of course some changes to the roster of car manufacturers. It's goodbye to Sauber and hello once again to the classic name of Alfa Romeo in Formula One. It's also goodbye to Force India. They've been rebranded as Racing Point. Joining me to take you through all the action of the 2019 Formula One season is Anthony Davidson. And it's great to have you with us.
Thanks, Crofty. Always happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to getting underway. Last year was Mercedes' 5th Constructors' title in a row, although for the first half of the season it was absolutely neck and neck with the Ferraris. Hopefully this year we can see the chasing pack take that final step, as I'd love to see a championship contest all the way up to the final race in Abu Dhabi. Another story to keep an eye on is the performance of Red Bull, who have switched to the Honda power unit this year. What that will mean for both their performance and reliability remains to be seen.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, and Hülkenberg, Gasly, Perez, Ricciardo, and Roman Grosjean. Magnussen, Stroll, Lucas Faber and Butler, Norris, Raikkonen, George Russell and Alexander Albon. The captain and Robert Kubica takes the last spot on the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Keep your eyes open on the run to turn 1 and keep it clean. We want to come out in one piece. Good luck.
Welcome to the 2019 Formula 1 Career Mode. Here today, first race of our career, one-stop strategy for the Australian Grand Prix. It's going to be a really cool, good one. Tough one though, starting from the back row of the grid unfortunately. Poor qualifying from both the Toro Rosso cars, so wasn't that far off Albon's time. It was very close, it was less than a tenth between the two of us, so the Toro Rosso car clearly not performing well around this circuit. Didn't suit it very well, and George Russell put in a bolter of a lap to beat us both, and was about 6/10 quicker than Kubica. So anyway, here we go for the start of the race, the formation lap first though, and we'll get off to a comical start here on the formation lap as we prepare to launch, and I just floored the throttle and got an absolutely horrendous moment there and spun it in a straight line. That might have to be one of the most embarrassing moments of my F1 playing career. But anyway, moving on now to the start of the race, and hopefully we can have a good one from the back row of the grid. Here we go, tension rises for the first race of the season. 5 red lights. And it's go for the Australian Grand Prix. Good start for Russell, bit of a poor start for us again, just getting wheel spin at the wrong moment and couldn't find the traction as we go into turn 1 in last place. Albon and Kubica go side by side. Can we find a way in the battle here? We're going to slipstream Albon. Slipstream Norris, hopefully no, he moves inside but late on the brakes, real late up the inside of everybody here. Russell, Kubica's gone around the outside of everybody, he's done well. We have to slot into 18th with ahead of Norris, ahead of Albon, our teammate. So now we move on down the inside very aggressively on George Russell however. So a good move, didn't make contact, up into 17th place. Now we'll be chasing the pack as we now have Raikkonen next up for 16th place, which is not so good. The two Ferraris lead the two Mercedes, and I think Verstappen is actually in between the two Ferraris up front, which is cool. George Russell having a look, he had a great run down the straight in that Mercedes powered engine, much better than our engine, and he's got another great run out of the chicane, and George Russell has flown past us for 17th place. Can we go around the outside? Not. He squeezes us out, and Russell makes a great move. The young Brit looking to impress on his debut as well in Formula 1, and he's now through into 17th place, so that's unfortunate for the Australian driver on debut, as Vettel sets the fastest lap of the race, of course, as it is the first lap of the Grand Prix, as he leads here in Australia, looking to convert Ferrari's first win of the year. Lap 2, we get a big boat of understeer with the dirty air, go onto the grass, and Norris doesn't need a second invitation. He takes the place, and he's now into 18th. And the two Toro Rossos are now 19th and 20th. A disaster for Toro Rosso. Moving on to lap 3, we got a big train ahead of us. Looks like Lucas Weber holding up the pack here ahead. In fact, it is Weber. Raikkonen also defending really hard, so the two Alfa Romeo's cars struggling. Kubica looking to make a move happen here, and we are going to try our best. We put it into overtake mode. Rich Mix trying to get close, and we're just not even gaining on Norris. So everyone got the same idea. We go deep. Norris lock up on the front right. Do we have an opportunity now into turn 3? Once again, overtake Rich Mix, and we're just not gaining. We're losing time here. Almost. We have a little look to the inside, but nothing doing. So after that, I realised it's probably not going to happen an overtake in this train unless there's a mistake by one of these drivers. So from this point on, I just thought the best thing to do would be save a bit of fuel and just come in and pit and do it that way. Bit of a corner cut there, unfortunately. But Sergio Perez is out of the Grand Prix. Mechanical failure for the Racing Point driver. Disappointing start to his season. So that's unfortunate for Sergio Perez.
The track is clear.
And now moving on to lap 8 here. Following Norris still.
On those tyres, we're seeing some significant signs of wear now. You may start struggling on them before too long.
So now Jeff's warning us about tyre wear, which we are going to pit on lap 10, maybe 11 I think. And we have a big moment here, so as soon as he warns us about tyres, we have a huge moment. It's okay, we're able to recover, and we've got a bit of a gap back to Albon. Next lap, into turn 1, got to recover that gap now. And another slide, a big slide, and then we spun the car out of turn 2. And immediate panic. Kubica was the one who came into the pits as well, if you didn't recognise. And now we've got a big struggle on our hands to get this car back going. We've lost about 20 seconds, almost 15 seconds at least, and the car just absolutely sliding through turn 3, slides again through turn 4 I think. No, not quite. I think through turn 5 it does. Yep, it's another slide. Just the tyres have overheated, the tyres are gone. So I immediately come into the pit lane for the hard tyre. So Kubica's on the 2-stop strategy today. I think everybody else ahead on the 1-stop, so we're going to also be on the 1-stop going to the hard tyre. It's really disappointing that's having that spin just at that time, because we're in a good position there, 1-stop strategy. But unfortunately we spun the car. Now we're going to make up time. Moving on to lap 12 now. And Albon's pitted. He's also on the 1-stop strategy. He's on the hards, and we're only a couple seconds behind him as he comes out of the pit lane. So looks like unfortunately we're going to be fighting our teammate today, which is not what we wanted to start this season. But now we have an opportunity here on Alexander Albon, very wide through the last corner though. That's probably cost us a chance on this lap to have an overtake. Despite having DRS, we are gaining on our teammate, but not by enough to have a look into turn 1. Maybe if we get a good run through here, we can have a look into turn 3 now. Open the DRS, overtake mode. We're gaining all the time. Albon defends a little bit to the middle, but we have a little bit of a look, but nothing doing there. So we're going to have to wait for the next opportunity on the next lap. As now into turn 13, not quite having an opportunity to overtake our teammate. He's holding us up a bit here. We're just a bit quicker at the minute, and we're going to have to find a way past as soon as possible. And now coming down the straight, overtake mode, DRS open. We're going to have a look to the inside. It's late, we're not quite alongside. Albon's locked up in the turn 1. We have the space to go through, so a good move there on our teammate. Albon gave us the space, probably didn't want to cause an accident between the two of us. So we get the position. So now, as you heard from Jeff there, lap 18, Kubica has stopped. We haven't actually pulled out a gap on Albon, so maybe we weren't holding him up too much. I was just trying to save a bit of energy and fuel. And onto lap 23 now, nothing, 6 laps gone past. We've pulled out about a second and a half on Albon, but we're 5 seconds behind Kubica. We can't make inroads. He's on the medium tyre, and we just can't make any inroads, unfortunately. So next lap here, lap 24, and Romain Grosjean is now out of this Grand Prix. The Frenchman, disappointment for him and the Rich Energy Haas F1 team, as they once again retire from this Grand Prix. And now on lap 26, Sebastian Vettel has come through to put a lap on us, which is really disappointing, considering I thought we had some decent pace in practice. And now we have a big moment in lap 27 through turn 15, and Albon, I think, actually hit us a little bit. And I think it allowed Hamilton to get past Charles Leclerc as well, so that's disappointing for Leclerc, getting mixed up with some back markers there, and costing Ferrari a possible 1-2 finish. We did, and now we're being told to let Hamilton through. Now, looking back, and he was a bit far back, so I thought focus on Hamilton. I missed the braking point here, sloppy on the last lap of our race, and we've gone into the gravel. Just put the cherry on top of the icing of what has been a disastrous weekend for us. 19th in qualifying, a disastrous race, and we're going to finish last on track. But I didn't give up. This was the last lap. I think Albon had some wing damage, and we were absolutely pushing. I didn't want to finish last, and we're absolutely gaining on him all the time here. Got 4% left on the battery, absolutely nothing left in this car, and Albon really struggling. We show our front wing here, we go down the inside and get the move done, so we're not going to finish last here today, as Sebastian Vettel wins the Australian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton will be in second, and Charles Leclerc will round out the podium in third, and we will come across the line a lap down to finish 17th, with our teammate Albon just behind us in 18th.
But I'm sure you gave it your best. Better luck next time.
So, celebration for Ferrari and Mattia Binotto as they win the opening round of this championship.
So, another excellent win from Ferrari. What do you think it was, Ants, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
Here come our winners now. A thrilling race and a tremendous effort by Ferrari. Their history is well known, so it's no surprise to fans the world over to see them come out on top once again.
So a Sebastian Vettel victory here in Melbourne for the opening round of the season. Hamilton second, Leclerc, Verstappen, Gasly, Bottas sixth, Hülkenberg, Stroll, Magnussen, and Devon Butler scores his first career point to round out the points today. So good drive from him. From I believe it is, as this is scrolling, 16th on the grid for Butler, no, 14th on the grid for Butler. So Grosjean and Perez are the two DNFs of this race today. Butler scores a point, so he's already 1 point up on us. It's only 1 point, but really terrible weekend for us in Australia. I apologise for my poor driving. I will make sure to improve for the next race. Really, first or second day on the game, and just first time driving these cars in anger every lap, and it was quite a challenge. I'm going to have to get used to how the car responds through the corners and stuff, so especially on the exit, and making sure the car doesn't swap, being careful with the throttle application, as here we have the rivalry check up, and we are actually leading the rivalry because of the performance today. We'll put in a better lap than Albon. He really struggled as well. So for whatever reason, our car wasn't working at Australia, and he wasn't on song. We lost a heap of reputation with the teams. So that's not ideal, but hopefully we can turn that around.
It's been a tough weekend.
Hopefully we can turn that around for the next race in Bahrain. I thank you guys for watching this episode today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'll see you guys for the next episode in Bahrain. Goodbye.